but we're drilling 3,000 to 4,000 wells. The price of natural gas, because of Marcellus Shale, which is the second largest natural gas find in the world, has gone from $12 to $3.65, and we let the marketplace work. So no, we didn't have the federal government come in and bail us out. I want to make the point about manufacturing jobs again, because if you're talking about creating jobs that trickle down. I agree with Newt. We have folks who are innovators, but he talked about innovators that created jobs for blue-collar workers. The unemployment rate among non-college educated is well into the double digits in America. It's 4 or 5% for people who have college degrees. The reason I put forth this manufacturing plan is not just so we can say made here in America, that we can create opportunities for everyone in America, including those that don't have that college skill set. People who built this country, like my grandfather, who was a coal miner. So that is a very important part that Republicans, unfortunately, are not talking about. We need to talk about income mobility. We need to talk about people at the bottom of the income scale being able to get necessary skills and rise so they can support themselves and a family. And that's what manufacturing does, and that's why I'm laser beam focused on it.
Let's get back to tax reform. Mr. Cain, let's talk fairness in taxation. Ever since this country started taxing income 100 years ago, our system charges those people who make more money a higher rate than those people who make less money. Governor Perry has said he doesn't believe in that approach, and your 999 plan suggests you don't either. Why now, when the higher income group is doing better than the rest of America, is the time to switch to the same rate for all of us?
My proposal is the only one that solves the problem by throwing out the current tax code, which has been a mess for decades, and we need to put in something different that I've proposed. 999. It satisfies 5 simple criteria. It is simple. The complexity costs us $430 billion a year. It is transparent. People know what it is. There are thousands of hidden sneak taxes in the current tax code. That's why I want to throw it out. It is fair. The reason it's fair is because of the definition in Webster, which says everybody gets treated the same, all businesses get treated the same, not having Washington, D.C. pick winners and losers. This is why I have proposed a bold plan of 999, 9% business flat tax, 9% tax on personal income, and a 9% national sales tax. It treats everybody the same, and it will boost this economy. How
do you ensure that when the government needs more revenue, that the sales tax doesn't go up and that plan doesn't turn into 1919?
Tax codes do not raise taxes. Politicians do. And as long as it's visible, the people will hold the politicians' feet to the fire. It's not the code that raises taxes. It's the politicians. Because the approach 999 will be very visible, the American people are going to hold the rates at 9.
Governor Romney, Mr. Cain's got a flat tax. Rick Perry's got a flat tax. Congresswoman Bachmann is talking about a flat tax. You don't have a flat tax. You're proposing to preserve the Bush-era tax rates. What is wrong with the idea that we should go to one rate? Why do you believe in a progressive tax system?
Well, I would like to see our tax rates flatter. I'd like to see our code simpler. I'd like to see the special breaks that we have in the code taken out. That's one of the reasons why I take the corporate rate from 35 down to 25, is to take out some of the special deals that are there. With regards to our tax code, what I want to do is to take our precious dollars as a nation and focus them on the people in this country that have been hurt the most, and that's the middle class. The Obama economy has really crushed middle-income Americans. This president has failed us so badly. We have 26 million people out of work or in part-time jobs that need full-time work or stop looking for work altogether. Median incomes have dropped 10% in the last 3 years. At the same time, gasoline prices are up, food prices are up, health care costs are up. And so what I want to do is help the people who've been hurt the most, and that's the middle class. And so what I do is focus a substantial tax break on middle-income Americans. Ultimately, I'd love to see us come up with a plan that simplifies the code and lowers rates for everybody. But right now, let's get the job done first that has to be done immediately. Let's lower the tax rates on middle-income Americans.
Congresswoman Bachmann, Governor Romney is accepting the premises of the Democratic argument that you have to have a fair approach to taxation that preserves different rates for different people. Why is he wrong?
Well, I would say President Obama is the one that's wrong, because President Obama's plan for job creation has absolutely nothing to do with the true people who know how to create jobs. He should really be going to job creators if he wants to know how to create jobs. Instead, he continues to go to a General Axelrod in Chicago to look for his orders to figure out how to deal with the economy. That won't work. We know what needs to be done. We have a real problem. When you have 53% of Americans paying federal income taxes, but you have 47% of Americans who pay no federal income taxes, you have a real problem. And that's why in my tax plan, I have everyone paying something, because everyone benefits by this magnificent country. So even if it means paying the price of 2 Happy Meals a year, like $10, everyone can afford to pay at least that. And what it does is create a mentality in the United States that says that freedom is free. But freedom isn't free. We all benefit. We all need to sacrifice. Everybody has to be a part of this tax code.
Congressman Ron Paul, you have said you want to close down agencies. Tell us about your tax plan, as well as closing agencies, federal agencies. Where do those jobs go?
Well, eventually they go into the private sector. They don't all leave immediately when the plan goes into the effect. But what my plan does is it addresses taxes in a little different way. We're talking about the tax code, but that's the consequence, that's the symptom. The disease is spending. Every time you spend, spending is a tax. We tax the people, we borrow, and then we print the money, and the prices go up, and that is a tax. So you have to address the subject of spending. That is the tax. That is the reason I go after the spending. I propose in the first year, cut $1 trillion out of the budget in 5 departments. Now, the other thing is that you must do, if you want to get the economy going again, is you have to get rid of price fixing. And the most significant price fixing that goes on that gave us the bubble, destroyed the economy, and is preventing this from coming out is the price fixing of the Federal Reserve, manipulating interest rates way below market rates. You have to have the market determine interest rates if you want a healthy, viable economy.
So you think the economy would be stronger if interest rates were higher right now?
You would have more incentive. You would take care of the elderly. They get cheated. They get nothing for their CDs. Why cheat them and give the banks loans at 0%, and then they loan it back to the government at 3%? They're ripping us off at the expense of those on fixed incomes and the retirees.
Even though higher interest rates would make it much more expensive to borrow mortgages, borrow.
Well, what you want is the market to determine this. Whoever thought that one person, the Federal Reserve Board chairman, knows what the money supply should be? Just in the past 6 months, M1 has gone up at the rate of 30%. That spells inflation. That spells lower standard of living and higher prices. And watch out, they're coming.
We are just getting started tonight. When we return, how will the candidates breathe a new life into the lifeless housing market?
Plus, the view of the economy from the corner office.
I think that we're in serious trouble. Business people are struggling.
The problems in the economy didn't arrive in 20 minutes, and they won't be resolved in 20 minutes.
The most important economic issue of concern to me is lack of leadership in government and the lack of any focus on building confidence both with consumers and the business community.
So how are the candidates going to turn things around? CNBC's Republican presidential debate. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back to CNBC's Republican presidential debate. With us for this portion of the program, CNBC's senior economics reporter, Steve Leisman. Welcome, Steve.
Great to be here, Maria. Thank you.
Most economists agree that there can be no economic recovery without a recovery in housing. American families have lost some $7 trillion in home value in the last 5 years. Right now, 4 million people are behind on their mortgage or in foreclosure. 25% of homeowners owe more to the banks than their house is actually worth. Governor Romney has said that the government should let the foreclosure process play out so that the housing market can recover and the free markets can work. Speaker Gingrich, is Governor Romney right?
Well, he's certainly right in the sense that you want to get through to the real value of the houses as fast as you can, because they're not going to rise in value as long as you stay trapped, as Japan has done now for 20 years. But I think there are two specific steps you've got to understand in terms of housing. To pick up on something Congressman Bachmann said, if the Republican House next week would repeal Dodd-Frank and allow us to put pressure on the Senate to repeal Dodd-Frank, you'd see the housing market start to improve overnight. Dodd-Frank kills small banks. It kills small business. The federal regulators are anti-housing loan, and it has maximized the pain level. You could also change some of the rules so that it'll be easier to do a short sale where the house is worth less than the mortgage than it is to do a foreclosure. Today, the banks are actually profiting more by foreclosing than by encouraging short sales. But in the long run, if you want the housing market to come back, the economy has to come back. When you're at 4% unemployment, you suddenly have a dramatic increase in demand for housing. When you're at 9% plus unemployment, it's hard to get the housing market to come back.
Governor Romney, respond in 30 seconds. Not one of your 59 points in your economic plan mentions or addresses housing. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, because it's not a housing plan, it's a jobs plan. And the right way to get... The best thing you can do for housing is to get the economy going, get people working again, seeing incomes instead of going down, incomes coming up so people can afford to buy homes. The things the Speaker just indicated are excellent ideas as well. You have to let the market work and get people in homes again, and the best way for that to happen is to allow this economy to reboot. What we know won't work is what this president's done, which is to try and hold off the foreclosure process, the normal market process, to put money into a stimulus that failed, and to put in place a whole series of policies from Obamacare to Dodd-Frank that have made it hard for this economy to get going. You want to get America's economy going? We know how to do it. It's do almost the exact opposite of what President Obama has done.
Governor Romney, we've created 2.7 million jobs since February 2010. Over that period of time, the housing market has continued to decline. We're at 2003 price levels now. If we keep going the way we're going, in 4 or 5 years, we'll be at 1999 price levels. The $7 trillion figure that Maria mentioned could almost double. Are you willing to let that happen in America?
And exactly what would you do instead? Would you decide to have the federal government go out and buy all the homes in America? That's not going to happen in this country. Markets work. When you have government play its heavy hand, markets blow up and people get hurt. And the reason we have the housing crisis we have is that the federal government played too heavy a role in our markets. The federal government came in with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and Barney Frank and Chris Dodd told banks they had to give loans to people who couldn't afford to pay them back. And so our friends in Washington today, they say, oh, if we got a problem in the housing, let's let government play a bigger role. That's the wrong way to go. Let markets work, help people get back to work, let them buy homes. You'll see home prices come back up if we allow this market to work.
But Governor Perry, every quarter I get to report the GDP figures, and it's a negative number for housing, and we've lost some 2 million construction jobs. Housing creates jobs as well, doesn't it?
Not a negative number in Texas, and one of the reasons is because we have put policies into place that follow my plan to get America back working again.
Okay, so translate that plan to America.
When you look at what I've laid out, whether it's the energy side and getting the energy industry going, and Rick Santorum is absolutely correct on that, is let's get our energy industry freed up, federal lands, federal waters, pull back all of those regulations. Everybody on this stage understands it's the regulatory world that is killing America. The tax side of it, yeah, have a flat tax. Have a corporate flat tax in there as well. But the real issue facing America are regulations. It doesn't make any difference whether it's the EPA or whether it's the federal banking, the Dodd-Frank or Obamacare. That's what's killing America. And the next president of the United States has to have the courage to go forward, pull back every regulation since 2008, audit them for one thing. Is it creating jobs or is it killing jobs? And if that regulation is killing jobs, do away with it.
Congresswoman Bachmann?
Governor Cain.
In one of the last debates, you were asked what you would do about foreclosures, and you told moms to hang on.